August 1943, 45 days into the European deployment theater, the 100th Heavy Bombardment Group stationed at Thorpe Abbott's RAF Station, England, had received 2 replacement B-17s along with 2 additional repaired bombers, placing the total number of mission-capable flying fortresses at 30. 2 badly damaged airframes are marked for parts and salvage, with 4 lost in action, leaving the air group 6 planes short from its original deployment strength some 7 weeks prior. On August 17th, the group's 4 squadrons sortied 21 B-17s into a combined task force of another 147 flying fortresses, with 5 other air groups allocated into the 3 strike wings. This was the largest armada ever assembled by the U.S. Army Air Force's 376 heavy bombers, about to slice straight into the heart of Germany, where the Bloody 100th is set to inherit its long-standing name. This video expedition will cover the bomb group's tactical operations, combat objectives, and mission results during one of the most costly air missions of World War II, as displayed in the Masters of the Air episode Part 3. The first task force will target a Messerschmitt factory in Regensburg, Germany, while the other 2 air armadas will hit a Wehrmacht ball-bearing industrial center in Schweinfurt. The multifaceted formation will split into 3 task forces over Belgium, preventing German air defenses from focusing fighter and anti-aircraft fire upon any one single fleet of the heavy bombers. After hitting the targets, the first armada will continue south over the Alps and Mediterranean, landing in North Africa, as the Schweinfurt bomber wings return to England, thus extending the diversionary flight path through the duration of all 3 missions. The 100th Bomber Group is positioned at the tail end of the Regensburg Task Force, flying in 4 squadron formations. The 418th is in the lead with 6 bombers of 2 elements. 6 planes of the 350 squadron are on the left flank grouping, and 9 B-17s take up the high position with merged elements from the 349th and 351st squadrons. In the early morning hours of launch day, the North Atlantic's cold front's constant clashing with the English Channel's warm seasonal currents shrouds a thick blanket of summer fog across the British Isles with a heavy silence, as the bomber crews eagerly await flight clearance from dozens of RAF control towers spread across East Anglia and South Wales. To avoid mid-air collisions in the thick cloud cover, the first task force takes off hours in advance, dictated by the Algerian timetable, to land in North Africa before nightfall. This lost element of surprise meant to confuse the German defense network grows with each passing hour, as the second and third wave of 230 bombers remain on the airfields. 24 P-47s escort the first task force for 40 minutes when they reach the extent of their range over Belgium before being forced to turn back for England. By now, the German air defense network has scrambled a mass of fighter interceptors towards the unescorted bomber wings as they cross over the Ardennes. Detecting the second and third task forces separately over the English Channel allowed the Luftwaffe adequate time to strike the first armada before refueling and rearming to mount a second controlled assault upon all the bombardment groups. What 8th Air Force Bomber Command had planned on disrupting the Germans with a diversionary force has now completely unraveled. The second and third task forces, being delayed by hours of fog, additionally allowed the Luftwaffe to mobilize every available fighter across German-controlled territory to intercept the bomb-laden aircraft along their extended flight paths towards Schweinfurt and Regensburg. Adding to the misfortune, a newly formed Luftwaffe Interceptor wing of specialized fighters have been equipped with rockets and high-explosive air-to-air mortars, mounting their first defensive action against the 7 bomber groups that the 100th is flying in. Shortly after the American escorts returned home, a force of 50 Luftwaffe fighters split into strike formations targeting the Regensburg bomb wings, with 2 of these squadrons zeroing in on the 100th. 6 Me-109s and 4 FW-190s, 2 armed with fragmentation rockets, intercept the 350th formation as both lead element bombers are damaged by the RPGs and cannon volleys. Incendiary rounds ignite oxygen tanks in a third B-17, engulfing the cockpit in flames as the uncontrolled bomber descends into a spiraling inferno. The box formation's 72 machine guns managed to damage 4 of the attackers, destroying a 190 with hundreds of 50 cal shots. 2 more fortresses go down from 20mm cannon salvos as the entire second element is lost in under 2 minutes. The 2nd Interceptor Squadron hits the 418th rear element with hundreds of shells blasting off a wing and crippling the lead bomber as a 190 rocket hits the 350 command plane for a second time. During the first 2 attack runs, 5 B-17s are lost and 1 heavily damaged, resulting in 50 airmen KIA or missing, as some of the fortunate crew managed to escape and deploy their chutes from the shredded aircraft. As the bombers from the 3 rear groups hit the hardest struggle to get back into formation, the third wave of the rocket interceptors methodically approach with their deadly payloads. 16 Me-109s and FW-190s are each equipped with 2 heavy motors and high explosive 210mm warheads mounted under each wing. Taking advantage of the defensive gaps enables each fighter to get within effective distances at nearly point-blank ranges to unleash 32 of the large mortars into the 3 bomber groups. The shredded remains of 6 B-17s from the upper 390th and 95th squadrons saturate the sky with falling airframe parts, as 2 more from the 100th suffer the same fate from the devastating missile barrages. Due to the extreme aviation skills required to successfully deploy these unguided air-to-air dumb bombs, they were largely abandoned a year later in 1944 due to extreme pilot attrition from Germany's fly until die policy combined with overwhelming Allied air superiority. Exhausting their fuel and ammunition, the Luftwaffe returned to base as the 14 remaining B-17s from the 100th form up with the other airwings for the bombing run on the Messerschmitt factories. With clear skies over Regensburg, the Norton targeting sites scored good hits on the complex, disrupting 40% of the industrial production capacity. The flight path navigation to North Africa successfully avoided further attacks from the Luftwaffe, who had focused most of their strength towards the northwest of Germany and France. 3 more B-17s from the 100th and 10 from other groups were forced to abandon ship or ditch in the Mediterranean from damage or lack of fuel due to the extended flight time to reach Algeria. From the 147 bombers in the first task force, 24 were lost in action, along with 240 crew listed as missing or KIA during the mission. 14 more aircraft were rendered non-mission capable after landing at the airfield in Tunisia. Out of the force of 50 enemy fighters that attacked the air groups, 3 were destroyed and 10 damaged from the B-17's gun crews. The other 2 task forces were able to disrupt 30% of ball bearing production at Schweinfurt while paying a tremendous price. The 5-hour delay allowed the 40 fighters that attacked the Regensburg group to resupply and intercept the 6 northern bomb wings to and from the target, along with 250 additional fighters mobilized from nearby Luftwaffe defensive districts. From the combined 3 task forces of 376 heavy bombers, 60 B-17 and B-24s were destroyed, with an additional 90 sustaining significant damages. 552 aircrew were listed as missing, with 20% of the total aircraft lost or rendered non-mission capable. Another 22% are down for extensive maintenance and repairs, raising the overall attrition rate to a catastrophic 42%, or 155 aircraft lost or out of action. The 100th Heavy Bombardment Group incurred the highest casualties from both raids, earning the nickname Bloody 100th. During the mission and transit to Africa, 10 fortresses were destroyed, with 3 more damaged. Out of the air group's full complement of 36 B-17s, over a span of 90 days and 3 raids, 17 remain operational, with 4 others undergoing maintenance or repairs. Out of the 360 original crew, 140 are missing or KIA, with another 32 wounded, equaling an active duty crew complement at 188, or an operational total of 51%. The crews that survived bailing out over German territory now face being captured and sent to prisoner of war camps, or escaping through Allied-supported militias and resistance groups to be smuggled through intelligence networks back to England. A grand total of 1.8% of viewers actually subscribe. That equals an attrition rate of nearly 99%. If you want to help build up defenses to the AI algorithm anti-viewcraft artillery and capability to fend off the analytical interceptors, press subscribe, share, and like to help support future video expeditions.